Today we have Dr. Priya Gopaldas on the podcast, who is a full-time NHS doctor and ultramarathon athlete.
So I actually met you, Priya, when we were doing our 250-kilometre ultramarathon in the desert, well, not in the desert, in the jungle in Sri Lanka. So I guess, is that the most crazy and wild and wacky ultramarathon and running pinnacle so far?
Oh, definitely. Honestly, when I tell people about the worst event, well, it wasn't the worst, but it was the most intense event I think I've ever done. Like the 40-degree heat, like almost 100% humidity, like you just couldn't cool down. And you were running on like open roads, direct sunlight, and you were running 250k.
Yeah, no, I remember that was absolute kind of like baptism of fire, really. And it was for me anyway, my first ultramarathon. Was it yours as well?
No, I'd done a 100k in the lovely English countryside, but that didn't prepare me for Sri Lanka.
No, of course. And so I guess kind of like maybe that's one of the most extreme things you've done. But what got you into running in the first place?
So I guess it started when I was at school. I hadn't ever run before, and then we had the annual cross-country event and ended up coming, I think, first or second.
No way.
And then I just got thrown into school athletics, then like county athletics, and then I thought, well, I'm probably actually quite good at this. And I just kept it going. I didn't really like track athletics. I found it too high pressured. And so I ended up moving on to 10k events when I was at university. Yeah. And then COVID happened and I had loads more free time. And I thought, why not push the distance? So over COVID, by myself, I ran my first ever marathon and my first ever ultra.
Wow, and so you just did a marathon on the whim of it, or were you doing a virtual event, or?
No, it wasn't an event. It was just me. I just used to run down one road from my house, and it used to go just outside of London, and I just carry on down that road, then turn back and run back home. And I used to push it every second day. I'd see how much further I could get, and then ended up, I think, running like a 50k. I aimed to run 60 that day, but I called my mum because on the way back I got to 50 and my legs were really injured. I was like, can't push it any further. Like, Mum, can you come pick me up? So yeah, that's how I got into ultra running.
Wow, that is absolutely wild. And I guess all the while, the bit you've missed was that you're also qualifying as a doctor through the end of COVID. And now you're a full-time doctor in the NHS.
Yeah, so now I'm working full-time. I mean, I've got a shift in a couple of hours. And so, yeah, it's really intense balancing work and running. I'm glad that I sort of got into ultras over COVID because now I've like dipped my feet into the ultra territory. I know how great it is. Now it's just difficult to balance. Well, it's just a question of balancing it, ultra training with work. But now I know that I really love running ultras, and so I can carry that on.
Amazing. So would you say ultra's your favourite distance, and why would you say that? Or what are the highs and lows of ultra training or the 250-kilometre ultra X race?
So yeah, I do love ultra marathons. I love just, you get into your own head. I love being, especially on the trails, like you don't have any sort of stress or pressure. You're just enjoying what's around you, and it's so calming. And for me, running has always been an escape. That's why I got into it, into the long stuff over COVID, because, you know, it was a really stressful time. I was in hospital, working, seeing a lot of horrible things, and it was just my chance just to get out of like real life and just like be in my own head. And yeah, I've carried that on.
And so do you find like doing the ultra side of things and not having to worry about time and pace and all of that makes it that much more relaxing? Obviously, we've just seen you do an amazing job out running a phenomenal time out in the LA Marathon. How do you think about structuring or balancing those kind of road races and the shorter distances, and how do you feel towards that?
So I do obviously enjoy them. I love running any distance at any pace, but I found that actually cutting down the distance and increasing the pace has been really, really challenging. Like when I was at the start of university, I used to run 10Ks for time, and then I haven't really come back to that until the start of this year, where I've increased my pace, and it's been really, really difficult. I forgot how hard it was to run quickly, but I guess it's not as stressful as I thought it would be, and I do really enjoy it. But I'm looking forward to progressing towards ultras towards the end of the year.
Well, I guess also now that you've got just like, you're such a versatile, well, human, but also runner, using that, doing endurance you've built up as doing an ultra runner means you can go and take that, and maybe the marathon doesn't feel as challenging. And also like a 10K, you can use all of that endurance, which is going to make doing the training sessions to get faster for a 10K that much maybe easier as well, right?
Exactly. I mean, doing different distances and just like changing between all of them definitely teaches you that, you know, anything's possible. You know, if I can run an ultra marathon, I can run like a sub 40 10K if I really put my mind to it. And that also progresses to like work. Like if I don't know, want to pass a certain exam, if I really put my mind to it, I can. So it's definitely taught me running different distances, has taught me just maybe that I'm just more resilient and like stronger and could do more than I think I could or would. And
presumably, so you mentioned you've got a shift coming up this afternoon, evening. Is that a night shift you've got coming up?
No, it's not a night shift, but it's what they call twilight shift. Okay. So it's 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. Horrible hours.
Wow.
Like, yeah, my sleep cycle hates me, but you know, I have a 3-day weekend, so looking forward to that.
And how do you find kind of like balancing doing all of the training that you're doing? I know you do a lot of like F45 classes as well. How do you find balancing all of that with these really intense days, doing days in the hospital?
I actually find that it works quite well. Before a long shift, I feel like I need to do a bit of exercise just to calm myself down. It helps. I don't know. I find it helps make, when I come to the end of the shift, it feels more satisfying. Whereas if I've just done a shift at work, a lot of it is desk work, or you're just walking down a corridor if you're on the ward, or you're standing still when you're in surgery. So it's nice to have a bit of, you know, movement before work. Helps me focus a bit more too.
I think that's incredible. Like, you must have such a strong, like, mental head to do all this. Like, being a doctor is obviously so intense. Ultra marathons are so intense. So many people would say running a 10K is easier than an ultra marathon. What do you put that down to, or like what goes through your head to keep you mentally strong?
I guess, I mean, with motivation, it really fluctuates depending on the day of the week. Like some days I'll be super motivated. I'll be like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to wake up early. I tend to be more motivated in the morning. Okay. And so I know that if I have like a 5:30, 6 a.m. start, I will, you know, do some exercise or do whatever I've got planned done. Mm-hmm. I'll get it done. And then, but some other days when I really struggle, I just think about, you know, how lucky I am to be able to do all of this. Like, you know, in addition to running and working, I like to travel too. And so it's like, it all, if I carry on going, it all sort of works, if that makes sense. And so I guess you have to have that sort of intrinsic motivating thing that keeps you going, if that makes sense. But I guess it's just me being like grateful for everything is what keeps me going.
And I think a big way to think about it as well is that like you don't need to win every day. Like, I mean, some days you're going to be absolutely knackered, and maybe like from time to time it's also absolutely okay to want to do a workout and maybe not do it. But so long as more often than not we do win, and we go and keep ourselves accountable, it all adds up to that picture of you getting to be an amazing doctor, be an amazing runner, get time to travel, and almost like not giving in when you've had one day that's hard, and almost like letting that be and then making the next day a winning day, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you look at your week, like you need that time to rest too. So it's like all works.
Yeah. So I guess like obviously done an amazing roller coaster of running to get to where we are now, and obviously just did the LA Marathon in a time of 3:21 we were just discussing, which is seriously impressive, especially given how hot and hilly it was there, right?
Yeah, God, I don't think I've ever seen so many hills in a marathon race. Yeah, it was intense.
All of the runners we spoke to said it was hard, and you did extremely well. And I guess kind of from here, what's next?
So I've got London in a couple of weeks, hoping to get a PB. It will be a lot flatter and hopefully a bit cooler. So that'll work in my favour.
Nice. So you're pretty close to the championship time cutoff. So you'd have to take 6 minutes off for that to get a 3:15 time. Is that kind of something that you're aiming for, or?
See, I didn't know about this until you just told me, Ben. So that is definitely something I'm aiming for. So that's a championship.
That's a championship time. Okay. Then you kind of get automatic entry. You get to start kind of in front of the normal people. And I think you get a slightly different medal, although you don't hold me accountable to that.
So if I get a 3:15, I become a VIP.
You basically become a VIP.
Great. Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, that's not hard. No, I'm joking. It's gonna be a tough race, but I'll try my best.
I guess kind of like you kind of alluded to the fact that running keeps you sane amongst everything else you're doing. Is that what keeps you running, or what is it that like drives you to get out the door and enjoy running? Do you mean every day?
I feel like it's just one of those like necessary steps in my day. Like I know that if I don't go for a run or don't do that bit of exercise, then I won't feel as good later on. Like I've never felt worse at the end of a run than I have, not doing one. And so even like maybe directly after run is finished, I feel awful, but give it a few hours or a few days, I'm always glad that I've gone on that run. And so I just have to keep that in mind whenever I do, when I'm not feeling motivated, just have that in the back of my head.
And so obviously we've got the London Marathon coming up, and then you've kind of alluded to all of your passion for ultramarathon. Have you got any other big goals for the year? And what else are you working towards?
So I want to progress back to ultras.
Yeah.
Back to the nice slow stuff, which makes me really, really happy. Marathons make me happy, but ultras, that's like, I get runner's high every single minute of an ultra. So I probably just want to get back into those. Hopefully I can do like a 100-miler towards the end of the year. That's the goal. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see where running takes me.
And are you more excited about one big day of an ultramarathon, or maybe those multi-day events? Like what is it that tickles your fancy, and why do you love a particular spectrum of that?
I guess I like the one-day events. I actually prefer them to the multi-day events. Firstly, because what will motivate me to get to the finish line is the fact that I will be in my own bed at night.
Yep.
And that's a huge motivating factor, whereas when we did Sri Lanka, it's like we were camping, we were eating like packet food that we'd have to add water to give it life.
We got to shower at one campsite.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the water was cold.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit of a mess. And so that's why I prefer the one-day events.
And so I guess kind of like for someone who's maybe out there slightly earlier on in their running journey, what advice would you have for them if they wanted to think about doing an ultramarathon one day? What would your suggestion be of how to build up maybe mentally or physically towards it?
I think my one piece of advice would be that patience is key. Like it takes a while to build up to it. You're not going to be an ultramarathon runner within a month. And if you are, you probably will get injured. And so, I started running when I was at school, and I've just built up to ultras in the last 2-3 years. And so I think just like increasing your distance just a little bit, every so often, and you'll be able to do it. Anything's possible. So even if you feel really horrible at the end of one race, like I ran a half marathon when I was at university, my second or third year, and I said I would never run that distance ever again. I was a 10k runner. This was half marathon was horrible, and now I'm running ultras and half marathons, and no problem.
I guess that's like a lesson that you've learned throughout all of your life. Like, becoming a doctor isn't something you can do overnight. That's 7 years of serious long-term consistency.
Yeah. So many pro runners, Phil Sessman's a doctor, Sam Harrison, she's in dentistry. It must come hand in hand, that hard work and dedication.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain type of person to be able to, stick out those 6 years of medical school. And I guess that commitment can also be applied to running, especially running long distances. That has probably helped me, get down my time and get towards a PB, a championship time, hopefully.
Yeah. And do you think there's something about you as a person, or is it the way that you always wanted to be a doctor? Or what is it that creates that like 7-year goal? Like you've stuck at your running for so long, you stuck at your work towards being a doctor for so long. Like, is it who you are as a person? Have you always just been devoted to things, or is there anything that you do to really keep yourself accountable?
I don't think I was born this way.
Yeah.
I actually think it's just getting inspiration from people around me. Like when I was growing up, my dad is the hardest working person I know, and just like seeing him go to work day after day, really long shifts, building his business. He's a pharmacist. And just putting in the hours and time. And also he was really into running too. And so he did a lot of running, and that really inspired me to run. And so just seeing him, that really motivated me to, he taught me what hard work was essentially. And so I know that if my dad, if he's able to do it, I can do it too.
And you kind of saw that consistency pay off over the long term. And like, I think that's also a big thing that's kind of like got me into my own journey of fitness, was that the people I grew up watching on YouTube, like I didn't feel they were genetically gifted in a different way to me. They've just done 10 years of doing commitment. Presumably that's something that you feel with your journey as an elite runner as well.
100%, yeah.
I guess kind of jumping into a slightly tangential topic, but so along this multitude of amazing things that you've achieved over the last 10 years, you had a very kind of like a short spell on Love Island as well. And we wanted to ask, how does a runner cope in Love Island? Were you able to go for a run?
Very, very difficult. So because my season was the first one post-COVID, we were quarantined in a villa for 2 weeks before I was in the main villa. And so that was the hardest period, because you had nothing to do. You were just like sitting in this villa. There was a small pool, but like a sunbed you could like lie on, but like, I wasn't really into that. And so I would just run laps around this tiny villa, and like each loop was no more than like, I don't know, 150 meters. And so it was pretty tough. And then getting into the main villa after that, there was like in the outside garden, I guess, I think I ran like once or twice, just like for like 30 minutes just around the kitchen area. But there was, I was by the pool, got told off because it was slippery. And then I was in the kitchen area, and that was like, you couldn't run around there. And so
did you hill rep down the stairs or something?
Oh, no, you couldn't, because they locked off the inside bit when everyone was outside. And so you were only allowed in certain parts of the villa at certain times. It was difficult. They did have like a little exercise gym thing outside where they had a few weights, but it was in direct sunlight. So, you've just done your hair and makeup in the morning. You didn't want to like be lifting weights. And
so was going for a run the thing that you were like most looking forward to when you got out?
Yes. Yeah, I think I came back, and like after not running for about like 6 weeks, ran like half marathon. I was like, I just need to run.
And probably also to get away from humans and have a bit of time on your own, and that mental clarity as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Went back to Regent's Park, my home.
Yeah. So I for context, I see Priya on Strava, where you seem to run the same route around Regent's Park all the time, over and over again. Is that kind of like part of your kind of consistency, like keeping yourself accountable, doing what you know?
Yeah, I just love the outer circle. I don't know what it is. I've run like 500 loops around it. I live fairly close by, so I guess it's quite accessible for me. But it's just, I've run like marathons around it, I've run halves. I just know the distance. Yeah. I know what to expect. And I don't know if that's me staying in my comfort zone. I'm not sure, but I just...
Well, you're not a crazy person in this room, because Anya is you're probably the local legend of Battersea Park. And I did a virtual marathon in the lockdown and wanted to know where I was going, wanted it to be fast and flat, and I did my virtual marathon 52 laps of Richmond Green. I'm the Richmond Park runner, so we're on your wavelength, so you don't seem too crazy to us. So I guess kind of like last question about your running journey before we kind of segue into a few more sillier questions. If you could go back in time and tell younger you, back at university, back at school, one piece of advice to become a better runner, what would you tell them?
Follow a training plan.
Oh, really?
Yes. So when I started running, I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about when I should train or how far I should train. I mean, even like over COVID, I I just wanted to increase the distance. And so I would run really far, like 30 kilometers on day 1, rest day 2, and then like 34 day 3, and then rest day 4, and then push it further, try to run a marathon on day 5. And it was just, I mean, that's just not good for you. I thankfully didn't pick up like any sort of big injury, but I feel like I was borderline. And so it was, follow a training plan. If you don't know what you're doing, it's the best help you can get. Like, you should take inspiration from people who know a bit more, and take advice from them.
No, amazing. Well, and you can obviously go and try out Runna, or go and work with a coach. Kind of, there's so many resources out there online, like YouTube and everything else. And absolutely great advice.
My top tip today is making sure you have a variety of sessions in your training plan. This should involve a series of higher intensity sessions and lower intensity sessions. Those harder sessions are all about running at a faster, less sustainable pace, balanced out with easier running, which will help you recover and help build your endurance. If you're new to interval training, my first session for you to try is 4 to 6 reps of 400 meters with a 90-second jog in between. This should be around 5k pace. And don't forget to warm up and cool down too.
Well, moving on from there, we've got a few slightly sillier questions. So I'm going to ask these to both of you.
Yeah.
So we're on the start line of an imaginary marathon, London Marathon, let's say.
Yeah.
You can have one drink. Yeah. Would you drink exclusively champagne or milk?
Champagne. Easy.
Yeah, I was going to say champagne because you were like, it's an easy answer.
And
I thought you were going to go milk though. A lot of runners have milk.
But it's a sunny day. Yeah. You're drinking lots because you want to stay hydrated. Is that not going to really hinder things in the second half?
And it's going to hinder my stomach if I drink milk.
Okay, yeah. I was about to say, on a sunny day, drinking milk
True,
will like congeal.
Okay, but no, the milk's nicely refrigerated at each stop.
Okay.
But you're going to be burping and drunk by the end.
I feel like the bubbles might give you a bit of extra energy, you know?
Sounds like
That's not a doctor's advice.
I think if it was chocolate milk or a fridgy milkshake, I'd be on that straight away. Right. Okay. Question number 2. If you're doing your interval training, would you rather do it on sand or constantly uphill? So you're on sand dunes, really thick sand. You do 1 step forward or 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or your entire interval workout, including the warm up and the cool down, is uphill.
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 Yeah.
I agree, uphill.
What?
I really hate running on sand. I really, really hate it.
You can't.
But can you not? That would just be horrendous. And then you'd have to walk home again down the hill.
That's fine, down the hill.
Wow, gosh, okay, right. Well,
You probably get used to the hills. It'd probably be better for your training.
and then if you got tired on the hill, you could go have some champagne.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, right. Maybe slightly more same one. This one, you can do all of your running around the track. You can never run around anywhere else other than a track, or you can never run at the track. What are you doing?
Could you repeat that one more time?
So you all do all your running at a running track,
Yeah,
or you're never allowed to go to a running track.
never allowed to go to a running track.
I also agree, never.
Okay, what about if I spun it to never allowed to run around Regent's Park or Battersea Park, or you only can run around Regent's Park or Battersea Park?
I only run around Regent's Park.
Really?
Yeah. I could never not.
Maybe only run around.
You guys are so crazy. I think I would choose to run anywhere else than I would allow myself not to run at the track.
That actually makes sense.
'Cause
There
I
are
think
so many places you can run.
Also, you could just go to Battersea Park and you could just go to Regent's Park, which could be quite a lot nicer. Right, okay, back to really silly ones. Last one. Would you rather do an entire marathon crawling or hopping?
Oh, hopping.
Can you switch legs? Which one you hop on?
Well, not one hop, then the other hop, because that would just be running, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So like, 20 minutes on one leg, then you can swap.
Hopping, I think.
Hopping.
I think crawling would hurt the shoulders. Like,
Yeah, but you're spreading the load. Some of you
that's true, but
could also crawl forwards, then when you get tired, you could crawl backwards.
I
I don't want to crawl backwards in a marathon.
I think you'd also look quite odd, but you probably look quite odd. You'd look quite odd either way, I suspect.
Yeah, I guess if you're hopping, it could like look like you're injured, so people would like come by, check it. But if you're crawling, people would stay well away.
Okay, so you're both hoppers then.
Huffing.
Okay, I think that probably is the only one that I agree with you on this time round. Okay, so moving on, we have asked our runners to send in some of their embarrassing stories.
Yeah.
And kind of, if you want to send in your embarrassing story for us to share on the podcast next time, send it to us on Instagram, send us a voice note, and maybe we'll even play it out. But so the one we've been sent in, unsurprisingly, has been sent in anonymously. But so this person has told us they were once running a recent half marathon and went to reach their gels that they were storing in their sports bra and flashed everyone. So have you had any similar experiences on your runs, or maybe what's your most embarrassing running story?
Ooh. Actually, I don't think I've had a super embarrassing running story. Like, apart from me just like flatlining and getting my mum to pick me up on the run.
Falling over.
Just not being able to move my legs. I was about 10 kilometers away from home. Oh, no. I just couldn't run any further. I could barely walk, and I gave my mum a phone call. I was like, "Mum, can you please help me?"
Definitely to call my parents, but more for some stomach problems. But that's probably one of those.
So far, like 90% of the stories that have been sent in have been toilet trouble related. So I'm sure we'll have lots of those. Lots of those to look forward to in future weeks. I'd imagine you've probably had a few of those in Battersea Park endeavours.
100%. I think I've been close to PBs, like trying to run home because of stomach problems. Definitely.
No, that is very funny. Well, yeah, please do send in your funny and embarrassing running stories for us to share in future weeks. Well, then we have our final very silly question, which is you're on the start line of a marathon, but you're completely naked and you can only bring 3 items. What are your 3 items that you're bringing?
A sports bra.
Yep.
Some shorts. And some trainers.
So you're not gonna wear your watch and put it on Strava?
I assume the marathon's going to be
The chip time, yeah.
Yeah, chip time. So I'll just enter it in later.
That's a good idea.
Also, that is a good point.
And you're not bringing.
Trainers count as one item of clothing.
Well, you can't just hop and do one trainer. Well, I think you can have a pair of trainers.
A pair of trainers, okay.
And you're not having anything to drink. What about your champagne that you wanted to bring?
I guess they'll have to wait for me at the finish.
There's also the aid stations. You can.
Oh yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So you're basically doing a really well organised marathon that has drinks en route, gels en route, or energy, and you then turn up with your clothes on.
Yeah, but I guess I'd want some music too. But I guess if it's a really well organised marathon, there'd be people like
So you're keeping clothes and shoes. You're not subbing out shoes for a.
I might do actually. It's a bit of music and no shoes, and I would go barefoot.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do.
But you'd have to do a less well organised trail marathon, because you wouldn't want to be barefoot on tarmac for 42k.
Oh no! But I did see someone at LA running barefoot, and I was very impressed. Yeah. Wow. So I guess if he can do it, I can attempt to do it too.
Wow. Well, there we are. So watch out for London Marathon, where Priya is going to be going for her championship time. She will be barefoot, wearing clothes, with an MP3 player.
And I'll see you to some champagne at the end.
Yeah, champagne at the end.
I'm going to hold you to that, Anya.
Well, please do check out Priya. What's your Instagram?
At Priya Gopaldas.
Amazing. We'll share tags to it. Priya's an absolutely inspiring, amazing woman. Huge good luck for London and all of the amazing ultras you've got coming up.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Runna. If you want to train for any running goal, please download the app, and don't forget you can use the code Runna Podcast for a 2-week free trial.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, follow, do all of that nonsense, and we'll be back here next week. And if you want to be featured, send us your embarrassing running story. Either send us a voice note on Instagram or send us an email to podcast@runner.com so that we can have a good laugh at your expense in Runner HQ and share it on one of the next episodes.